In a trading company in the quiet town of Clarksville, Tennessee, the air conditioner hummed softly, filtering the summer heat. Henry Glass, an accountant with a calm demeanor and dedicated posture, glided his fingers over the keyboard, his eyes fixed on the glowing screen. Despite his serene posture, there was an underlying tension in the air, like electricity before a storm. Thomas Baker, the strict and severe boss, moved among the desks with a stern expression, sharp eyes scrutinizing each employee. His criticisms were like poisoned arrows incessantly aimed at Henry Glass. "Your reports are late again," reprimanded Thomas, his sharp voice cutting through the office murmur. Henry, however, remained calm. "They will be on your desk by the end of the day, Mr. Baker," he replied without diverting his gaze from the screen. His performance was impeccable, every number and calculation meticulously checked. However, this was not enough to appease Thomas's inexplicable antipathy. Around him, other employees exchanged sympathetic and uncomfortable glances. They saw the injustice, the disparity in task distribution. While Henry was buried in piles of papers and digital files, his colleagues enjoyed a significantly lighter workload. In the corner of the office, Rachel Johnson, a young assistant, whispered to her colleague, "I don't understand why Thomas is so hard on Henry. He's one of the best accountants we have." Her colleague, Mark Anderson, nodded in agreement. "It's as if Thomas has something against him." Every day, the pressure increased, like a pressure cooker about to explode. Henry felt the weight of excessive demands, the tension in his temples, but he remained resilient. He stayed late after hours, the light from the desk lamp cutting through the darkness, typing tirelessly. Henry increasingly felt like a bird trapped in a cage, with Thomas's constant criticism and pressure weighing down on his wings. The idea of leaving the company became a seed germinating in his mind. Was it worth enduring such hostility and disrespect? The mornings were marked by the same routine. Henry would arrive at the office, his serene demeanor concealing the inner turmoil. The days became a sequence of furtive glances and silent sighs, as Thomas issued his demands and sharp criticisms like razor blades. One day, as the sun painted the sky in shades of orange and gold, Henry sat in his swivel chair, gazing at the distant horizon through the glass window. "Maybe it's time to fly away from this nest of vipers," he murmured to himself, fingers drumming on the wooden desk. With a resolute sigh, Henry got up and walked to Thomas's office. Upon opening the door, he found Thomas seated behind his imposing desk, his eyes fixed on the documents before him. "Thomas, I need to talk to you," Henry said, his voice firm despite the tension in the air. Thomas raised his eyes, a sarcastic smile forming on his lips. "What do you want, Glass?" he asked, his voice dripping with disdain. Henry took a deep breath, mustering the necessary courage. "I've decided it's time to move on. I'm leaving the company." Thomas's smile widened, revealing the pleasure in his gaze. "Ah, but not so fast, Glass. You'll stay for one more month and train your replacement." Henry's heart sank, but with no recourse to confront Thomas legally, he nodded, momentary defeat filling him with silent determination. "Very well, Thomas. I'll meet the requirement." The days that followed were marked by isolation. The rest of the team avoided eye contact with Henry, whispered behind his back, while Thomas relished every moment of Henry's submission. But Henry, with his mind focused on the future, worked meticulously, training his replacement with patience and professionalism. Every night, as he left the office, Henry looked up at the starry sky, promising himself that he would soon be free, soaring to new horizons. Determination burned in his eyes, hope pulsated in his chest, as he counted the days to the dawn of a new journey. As the clock tirelessly marked the passage of time, the office buzzed with its usual commotion. Thomas Baker, the cunning and Machiavellian boss, silently plotted his schemes, his crafty eyes hidden behind an impassive demeanor. His target, as always, was Henry Glass, the quiet accountant whose dedication and integrity were like thorns in his side. On a gray afternoon, as heavy clouds covered the Clarksville sky, Thomas approached Henry's desk with a stack of documents in hand. "Glass, I need you to sign these documents." "It's urgent," said Thomas, his voice imbued with false urgency. Henry, his eyes lifting to meet Thomas's penetrating gaze, hesitated. "But I need to review these documents before signing them," Henry retorted, intuition warning him of imminent danger. However, Thomas did not back down. With a forced smile, he insisted, "We don't have time, Glass. It's a matter of now or never." The pressure was palpable, the air charged with tension and anticipation. With a resigned sigh, Henry picked up the pen, his hand trembling slightly. Each signature seemed to engrave the trap being woven around him even deeper. The documents, filled with numbers and clauses, were like a minefield, and Henry, under pressure, had no choice but to proceed. It didn't take long for the trap to snap shut. The company suffered significant losses, and the director, Mr. Wallace, summoned Henry to his office. The atmosphere was somber, the heavy curtains filtering the gray light of the rainy day. "Henry, can you explain this?" Mr. Wallace asked, his deep voice echoing in the office as he pointed to the signed documents. Henry, with a dry throat, tried to defend himself. "Mr. Wallace, I was under pressure." Thomas insisted I sign the documents quickly. Mr. Wallace's gaze was piercing. "You are responsible, Glass. You should have verified." With a heavy heart, Henry realized the cruel truth. Thomas had set him up, weaving a web of deceit and manipulation. However, without concrete evidence, Henry was cornered, his innocence tainted by Thomas's cunning. In the dimness of the office, as the rain beat against the windows, Henry felt the weight of injustice. Thomas, lurking in the shadows, savored his victory. But Henry, with resolute eyes, swore to himself that the truth would eventually come to light. Henry had been thrown into a storm, his vessel of integrity at the mercy of the treacherous waves woven by Thomas Baker. In front of a group of impassive executives, Mr. Wallace, the director, spoke like a judge's gavel. "Given the circumstances and the significant losses, we have no choice but to terminate your contract," Mr. Wallace's deep voice echoed. Henry's eyes sparked indignation, but his voice remained controlled. "I did what was demanded of me under pressure. I didn't have a chance to verify the accuracy of the documents." Mr. Wallace frowned, the decision irrevocable. "It's your responsibility, Glass. Furthermore, the damages will be deducted from your salary." In the corner of the room, Thomas watched the scene, a barely contained smile of satisfaction on his lips. He had woven the net, and Henry had fallen right into it. Every word of reprimand directed at Henry was like music to his ears, every disapproving look confirmation of his triumph. As Henry left the building, folder in hand, the sharp October wind whipped his face. He cast one last glance behind him. There was Thomas, at the third-floor window, with a triumphant look fixed on him. Thomas's antipathy for Henry remained an enigma, an indecipherable mystery rooted in the shadows of his soul. In the local cafe, with the comforting aroma of coffee filling the air, Henry reflected on the recent events. What had motivated Thomas to act so villainously? The answers seemed to dance in the shadows, eluding his grasp. The murmur of customers and the clinking of coffee cups couldn't drown out Henry's thoughts. He wondered if Thomas's antipathy was a twisted attempt at self-assertion, a desire to elevate himself at the expense of others' downfall. The flames in the fireplace crackled, casting dancing shadows on the walls. While Henry, his eyes fixed on the flames, made a silent promise. He would not allow injustice to prevail. He would seek the truth, even if the path was strewn with thorns. So, in the shadows and lights of that autumn night, a new journey unfolded. Henry, with determination ablaze in his eyes, knew that, in the end, the truth would emerge from the shadows, and justice would prevail over darkness. Already in the office, seated in his swivel chair, Thomas Baker absent-mindedly flipped through the documents. His confident demeanor revealed the arrogance of someone who felt untouchable. The conference room where the fate of many had been sealed was steeped in palpable tension. The documents on the table were like autumn leaves about to be carried away by the wind. The door opened, and a woman entered, her imposing presence and penetrating gaze announcing the impending storm. Michelle, from the auditing department, carried a folder in her hands, fixing her eyes on Thomas and saying, "Mr. Baker, we've uncovered several serious tax irregularities in the company. Can we begin the discussion?" Thomas, unprepared and still intoxicated by his recent triumph over Henry, smiled confidently. "Of course. I'm sure we can clarify any misunderstandings." While Thomas attempted to justify the discrepancies, Michelle's gaze remained unwavering. Her sharp questions came like arrows, dismantling each of his defenses. With each evasive answer from Thomas, Michelle's determination intensified. What Thomas didn't know was that Michelle was not an ordinary adversary, she was Henry's wife. The flames of injustice that had consumed her husband now burned in her own eyes. Every revelation of fraud and every uncovered tax evasion scheme reinforced her resolve to seek justice. As the afternoon faded into twilight and the golden light of dusk streamed through the window, the storm inside the conference room intensified. Michelle, with surgical precision, unraveled the web of lies woven by Thomas, and the truth emerged like lightning, cutting through the darkness. Thomas, now breaking into a cold sweat, felt the walls closing in around him. The confidence he had displayed earlier was slipping away, and he realized, with growing horror, that he was cornered. As Michelle concluded the meeting, she cast a steady gaze at Thomas. "Mr. Baker, justice will be served. Irregularities will not go unpunished." While Thomas left the room, his steps faltering and his complexion pale, he still didn't know the connection between Michelle and Henry. But deep in his soul, he felt that the storm was only just beginning. The revelation of financial irregularities within the company only fueled the fire of determination within Michelle. The calm and professional facade she presented to the world concealed a storm of indignation over the injustice suffered by her husband, Henry. Each document reviewed, each number verified, brought to light the extent of the corruption poisoning the company. Night fell as Michelle sat in her office, her attentive eyes scanning lines and lines of financial reports, uncovering fraud and tax evasion schemes. "This is unbelievable," she murmured as the details of the illicit acts unfolded before her eyes. The ill-gotten profits were cleverly divided between Thomas Baker and the director, leaving the owner of the company in the dark, an unwitting puppet in the web of lies woven by his subordinates. The betrayal ran deep, the greed and lack of scruples astonishing. Michelle, driven by a sense of justice and the need to clear her husband's name, delved deeper into the investigation. "This corruption will not go unpunished," she vowed to herself as she compiled evidence of dishonest business practices. Days turned into weeks, and Michelle tirelessly continued to gather the pieces of the corrupt puzzle. With each discovery, her conviction grew stronger, and her determination to expose the truth became unwavering. Every clandestine conversation overheard, every incriminating document found, were steps toward Henry's vindication and retribution for those who had caused his downfall. In secret meetings with the owner of the company, Michelle revealed the dark truths hidden within the company's balance sheets and practices. "Mr. Marshall, I'm sorry to bring you this news, but it is my duty to inform you that there is an extensive network of fraud here," she said with a serious face as she presented the evidence. Mr. Marshall, the owner, listened with a pale face and an incredulous expression. "How could they do this?" "Thomas and Wallace betrayed me," he murmured, referring to the director. Michelle nodded, her eyes resolute. "It is our duty to set this right, Mr. Marshall. Justice must be served." Together, Michelle and Mr. Marshall devised a plan to expose Thomas and the director, to restore the integrity of the company, and to clear Henry's name. The storm of justice was about to descend upon those who had chosen the path of corruption, and Michelle was in the eye of the hurricane, guiding it with determination and righteousness. As the days passed, Thomas Baker discovered the connection between Michelle from audit and Henry, the accountant he had wronged. With this revelation, his face paled, and sweat began to bead on his forehead as he realized the depth of the situation. The office's silence was only broken by the hum of the air conditioning and the constant clicking of keyboards. "Michelle is Henry's wife," he muttered to himself, fear evident in his voice. Quickly, a wave of reality and regret washed over Thomas. He knew he had to act and act fast. Thomas, with a heavy sigh, picked up the phone and dialed Henry's number. He hesitated for a moment before pressing the call button. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times before it was answered. "Hello, this is Henry speaking," came the calm and firm voice from the other end of the line. "Henry, it's me, Thomas," Thomas said, trying to keep his voice steady. There was a pause, a heavy silence, before Henry responded, "What do you want, Thomas?" Thomas swallowed hard. "Henry, I need your help. You were the best accountant we had, and, well, you know what Michelle found out." Henry laughed bitterly. "So now you need me, Thomas, after everything you've done? I'm at a new company, respected and well paid. Why would I help you?" Thomas felt hopelessness welling up inside him. "Henry, I know I messed up. I was wrong about you, and I'm paying for it. But I beg you, can you help me set things right?" Henry pondered for a moment before responding firmly, "No, Thomas. You made your choices, and now you must live with the consequences. You hurt a lot of people, and it's time to be held accountable." The phone was disconnected, and Thomas stood there, feeling the weight of guilt. He knew he was on his own, that he had to face the consequences of his actions. With a resigned sigh, he prepared to confront the approaching storm. The following weeks were tumultuous. The company shuttered its doors, the scandal of fraud and tax evasion became public, and Thomas was brought to justice. He sat in the courtroom, his face pale and his eyes vacant as the charges were read. In the end, justice prevailed. Thomas was convicted of tax evasion and other irregularities, and as he was led away in handcuffs, he cast one final glance outside, where the sun shone brightly, a reminder of the light of truth and justice that now illuminated his dark deeds. Amidst the chaos that unfolded in Henry's former workplace, he was distant, finding refuge and prosperity in his new work environment. Stonebridge Financial was known for its ethos of integrity and employee appreciation, a world far removed from the toxicity he had experienced under Thomas's management. Henry quickly settled in, and his talent and professionalism did not go unnoticed. It was common to hear praises for his meticulous work as an accountant, the way he balanced the books with precision and maintained serenity even on the busiest days. "Henry, you truly have a gift for this," exclaimed Mr. Johnson, the friendly finance manager, as he examined the impeccable spreadsheets. Michelle, on the other hand, continued her diligent investigation into Henry's former company. The discovery of fraud schemes and tax evasion brought to light the true extent of Thomas and his accomplices' corruption. Each day, more dark details were unveiled, and Michelle was dedicated to ensuring that every transgression was documented. In the evenings, Henry and Michelle met in their cozy home, sharing stories of their day. Henry spoke of his new colleagues, the welcoming atmosphere, and how he felt valued. "Michelle, it's like I found where I truly belong. They respect me, appreciate my work, and treat me with dignity," he shared, a contented gleam in his eyes. Michelle, immersed in her own feelings of justice and determination, shared updates on her investigation. "Henry, you won't believe what I discovered today. It's even worse than we thought. But I promise they will pay for every penny embezzled and for all the harm they've caused." Henry, listening attentively, squeezed Michelle's hand and replied, "I know, my love, and I am so proud of you." Together, We will ensure that the truth prevails. The days passed, and Henry and Michelle's story became known. They were the embodiment of integrity and justice, a couple united against corruption and malevolence. Henry, now flourishing in an environment of respect and appreciation, and Michelle, a tireless champion of the truth, worked side by side, proving that in the end, integrity is rewarded and injustice unmasked. Henry's story became a beacon of inspiration, a narrative intertwined with the golden threads of resilience and justice. The community at large, colleagues, and friends gathered around the warmth of this modern fable, absorbing every detail, every twist and turn, and finding strength in the lessons imbued in each chapter of Henry's journey. The couple's story was propagated throughout the town, discussed in parks, corporate hallways, and even in classrooms. You see, children, Mr. Hamilton, the local school's ethics teacher, would proclaim to his attentive students, Henry's story teaches us a valuable lesson about integrity and the importance of always doing what is right, even when it's difficult. The eyes of the young ones gleamed, reflecting the newly discovered wisdom as they imagined the courage required to remain steadfast in the face of adversity. Meanwhile, Thomas was confronted with the mirrored reality of his choices. Seated in the courtroom after appealing the decision, the weight of his dishonest actions pressed on his shoulders once again, hunching his posture and darkening his gaze. Mr. Thomas, the stern voice of the judge resonated through the room, your lack of ethics and fraudulent actions have caused harm and suffering. This court condemns you to face the legal consequences of your deeds. The story echoed in every corner, a living reminder that the truth always finds its way to the light and that justice, though sometimes delayed, is inevitable. Henry, now celebrated for his righteousness and resilience, continued his life with the certainty that values and principles are the foundation upon which a lasting legacy is built. Thomas, in his journey of redemption, daily confronted the reality that every action has its reflection, every choice has its consequence. As such, his days were filled with reflection and learning, a challenging road of self-discovery and growth. Thus, the tapestry of their lives unfolded, woven with threads of choices and consequences, a story etched in the hearts and minds of those who witnessed it, a tale of cherished integrity and realized justice. Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.